And good evening. Welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner here from the HAC on the Highland Activity Network. I'm your host, Paul McDonald. Another Wednesday night, and we are going to be football heavy part of the show tonight. We're going to talk volleyball and tennis. Of course, a couple of young men that made it to the state tennis championships for the Highlanders. We'll talk with Trey Cope and Kai Kringley coming up a little later on in the program. But as we talk football, we're going to start with the young guys and work our way all the way up to the varsity, kind of what they do when they're actually playing. And we're starting with Thunder football, the 5th and 6th graders. And we have Mike Lentz and Paul there joining us. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I appreciate you coming by and talking Thunder football. And I guess question number one we have a coach and the commish, if you will. How'd the season go, Mike?
You know, this year was a really good year. We've had, in the history of Thunder football for 22 years, we've had 2 years where we've had teams go undefeated. And I was fortunate. Things were falling on the right, and the White Thunder went 7-0, and Paul had a couple tough games. Gray Thunder did, and they ended up 5-2. But it was a great year, great group of kids, and visiting with some of the other coaches, it felt like this was our best year of coaching. Like we always talk about it. The kids get it. The light switch turns on. It seemed like this year everything was running just perfect with the coaches, and so yeah, it was a great season. We were a little concerned at first if we were able to find games, and we were actually able to play Jamestown 4 times each, so that is nice, and I think that relationship we're going to continue. It helps them because they used to just play against each other, and so and one of the things I think the challenges that Paul will have is to try to reach out to the smaller communities. I know Cooperstown or Griggs was looking at possibly doing something. We tried to reach out to Carrington and stuff. So I think you're going to kind of see some more of that coming. But it was, and obviously perfect season is awesome. I mean, what a way to end my career with Thunder football. But just the kids. I mean, it just and we've talked about this year after year when that light switch, they get it, and like they're kids, and so some will get it right away. Some it takes the end of the season. Some it's next year when they come back as the 6th graders. But man, when that clicks, and you have these kids, you're thinking, oh boy, I don't know if they're going to make it to the second week, and all of a sudden they're in the model of the scrum, and it's like, okay, he's got it. They figured it out. So.
Paul, as a coach, what is one of the more tougher things as far as fundamentals getting through to these kids?
Well, they come in individually, as a lot of them, especially the 5th graders, don't have a whole lot of knowledge of they see what's on TV and stuff like that. So to actually get them together and hitting, blocking, running, whatever it might be, and we always tell the kids, we do the drills for a reason. It's not just out here just doing this because we think it's going to be fun or something like that. But and especially if it happens in a game situation or something like that. And the like Mike said, when the switch goes on, they said, "Hey, we worked on that in practice." And we say, "Yeah, that's why we do those things, because it's a lot of game-like situations." So the challenge is getting those kids, number one, once they figure that out, and then they start trusting us that we know what we're talking about.
Right, yeah.
Then it really just flows. It's really fun. That's the part I love the most. So.
And the other hard part is this is truly the first team sport where it's a contact sport. I mean, I know hockey, but I think they can't do checking at certain ages and stuff. And so a lot of those 5th graders that come in that are, not sure, are a little timid, but that's probably the hardest thing, is to get those kids to understand we have the best gear that we can buy. That's why we fundraise. That's why we have this stuff. You're going to be okay, And unfortunately, we had one boy that broke his arm the 2nd week of practice, and it wasn't because he got hit. He got hit and he fell down, but he reached his arm out to catch his fall.
Sure. Yep.
Which again, now we got to learn how to teach kids how to fall when you you see it in the pros, the same thing. They stick that arm out to catch themselves and so forth. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. And we always tell our kids, the stuff you see on Sunday is not the stuff we want to see on our field.
Yeah.
We don't act. We act like you've been in the end zone before. We act like you made a tackle before. And if you do the taunting, you do that kind of stuff, you'll be standing next to me on the sideline, and until you get it figured out, that's not what this is about, you know. So,
And Bud Grant was one that's what he used to say.
Yep.
Act like you've done it before.
Yeah.
You know, and then if he caught any of his players doing that, they were going to be not playing. Period. End of story. And as coaches and guys that with these 5th and 6th graders, then you see them as 7th graders get a chance to move up and play junior high. One young man in particular, I think, was 7th grader this year. I talked to him here at a volleyball match, Leighton Hendrickson. And I said, keep playing, kid. You're a good ball player. Yeah. And he learned that stuff 5th to 6th grade. Does there take some pride in that when you see these kids as they progress into 7th and 8th grade?
Oh, definitely. It's fun to watch them move up. Mike has done such a great job of tracking these kids as they go through junior high football and then into the JV level and then to the varsity level, and look at how many of those kids started in Thunder football. And, we talk about what we want to do is give these kids a foundation, just a real good base to kind of build off of. Where they want to take it, that's completely up to them, but we're going to do the best we can to give them that foundation, that building block, and hopefully it carries on to to become highliners, and look at some of where we're at right now, in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's our goal.
Yeah, and looking at the roster, I think there's 40 kids, and 29 of them play Thunder.
Yep.
Whether it was both years or 1 year, and some kids moved in later and didn't get in or whatever. But so that part of is to me is exciting, and I think when my son Taylor played, that graduating class had the most Thunder kids that had played, I think, in our program that went all the way through the ranks, so that part's exciting. And they still call you coach, and and they still have stories about this or that, and Scott Rohde can tell you stories that he probably won't tell anybody other than just him and I. Yep.
Well, and you mentioned that we're going to have Coach Aaron Heck from the junior varsity team coming here. They went 7-1-1. Those kids, probably every one of them, too, right down to the last person, probably played Thunder football.
Yep.
And because those that were just 4 years ago, probably, because that'd be 9th and 10th graders.
Right, yeah.
And you got to Taylor coaches for South, so I don't know why.
Yeah,
that's just bad parenting.
Well, I did a pinky clap after I got to cheer him on, but that was about it. But yeah, it's exciting. My oldest boy Cameron coaches at Grafton. We used to play Grafton all the time. I said, I will not wear maroon and gold.
No.
I'll cheer for you, but I'm not wearing it. And Taylor said the same thing. You'll never catch me in Fargo South. But I would. I will. If I have to. But
my father was the assistant principal at Fargo South for 20 years. So you still have that.
Yeah.
But let's get back to Valley City and back to Thunder football. And one of the main reasons why we're having these gentlemen on is kind of the changing of the guard, passing of the baton, or the handing off the football. Mike, when you got this started, it was with your sons were getting to that age, and just the genesis of Thunder football 22 years ago.
Right. Back in 2000, it was myself, Jim Breckheimer, Brent Gustafson, Chris Quilving, and the late Todd Heck. And I remember we had several meetings at my house, and we got to figure something out. And basically what it was is our 5th and 6th graders, all they played was flag football.
Yeah.
And so, not that our 7th grade coaches weren't doing a good job, but it did seem like some of those fundamental stuff that we teach now, they had to teach. And so we thought we got to do something. And so, honestly, to tell you, 22 years from now, it'll go later, and this program is where it's at. I get choked up. I get tears in my eyes. I got a card today from the BCN parents that I like to read a little bit later that makes you, this is why we come back. It's about the kids. It's not about me. One of the things I feel that why our program has been so successful is the core of coaches that we've had. Unfortunately for Paul, all the white coaches are retiring this year.
Yeah.
I've done it for 22 years. Clay Adams did it for 20. Jeff Brown and Kevin Egermont are 15, and I think Buff was at 10 or 12 or something like that.
Yep.
So last year was really the first year. Well, I shouldn't say that. 6 years ago and 5 years ago we got Clinton was the first time we really had to go look for coaches. Mm-hmm. And so we got a parent that stepped up this year, and actually Leighton's dad, and he's got his son played. He's got another one coming up, and then I think we already had a couple parents that we've reached out to that had kids play this year that are interested, and they got other younger ones coming up. And so, that's the key. It's not the ones that some of the programs we see. It's I'll coach my kids there, and when my kid's gone, we've had some coaches that don't even have kids that played.
Right.
It's just the passion of the game, and more importantly, teaching life skills to these kids. Some of these kids that's the only father figure they have, and so we it's just an amazing feeling seeing those kids and what we can accomplish. And like I said, it's I organize it, but you know what? It's the guys that are there, and it's basically it's those kids. It's reaching out to them and making them feel part of a team. And yeah, we scream and yell and get mad at them sometimes. That's what all coaches do, but we're also there to hug them and pick them up and high five them and joke with them and so forth. And so. So that part of it I'll miss. I mean, that's, and I've got to the point now where I can only recognize them if they had a helmet on. Now I can, now I can see them without the helmet, and I pretty much know who they are. So,
Paul, when you were talking to your team at all, did you ever say, looking at the varsity, they're undefeated, they're number one in the state, and say they all played Thunder football, and just kind of use that as the success breeds success type of thought?
Oh, yeah, we talk about that in practice a lot with those kids, and especially with the varsities practicing right next to us a lot of times, and we'll look down and take a look at it. Hey, you guys, you can be part of that program coming up here, and that's what we're building off of that one. You guys can start moving up and get in that part of that program. So we definitely look at that part of it and tell those kids something to work towards, and hopefully they do. So,
looking for games, is it because there's not a lot of 5th and 6th grade football in and around the area, or?
It just kind of, at one time we used to have 4 teams, 80 kids, and we had BCN, and we also had Maple Valley, and then they kind of branched off, and Maple Valley was having a hard time finding coaches, and so they kind of went to a flag football program. So there was usually a couple games there. Lisbon always had 2 teams. Their guy Kevin had retired last year, and so is one of those where they couldn't find anybody to step up to the plate, and I think there was a lot of the equipment was outdated and there had to be some fundraising, and when we started our program, man, we raised $20,000 in a month. I mean, it was just amazing what this community has done, and so that's part of it. And and we've always tried not to do a lot of traveling, like far distances. Milner, I think, is our farthest, but it's like, they do it for every other sport, so why can't we? And so we try to reach out to Wapton since we've been playing them and stuff, and so hopefully next year we can get something hooked up with them and expand it. But right now 7 games is quite a bit. We start middle of August, right when the varsity starts, and then we go through end of October or middle of October, I guess,
right.
But yeah, it's. And getting back to that thing about, talking about the kids, I tell you what, thank you to Rob Hunt and the first responders and you.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I think the coaches were a little more excited than the kids. To be honest with you, we in 22 years we never did that, and we used to play against each other, and it got to be, the coaches are too competitive, and it got to be pretty ugly. So we quit doing that, and so I thought, this would be a good time to kind of maybe see if we could do this, and so I asked Rob if that's a possibility, and kind of let people see what we're about for 22 years. They may have heard about us, but haven't come to a game or whatever.
Right.
And I tell you what, when those kids are over in the corner of the end zone waiting for the fire trucks to go off, and they start chanting something, so they must have been working on something at
Right.
school, because they all knew what they were going to chant, and that was pretty exciting for the kids, and that's a memory that they probably will never forget. They'll probably, they'll forget about the perfect season for White, but they won't forget about that running onto the field and all those people. And couldn't have been a perfect game with Jamestown in town.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was just an exciting moment for those kids.
If they get a chance to taste Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
With that, it's like, you like it now. In 4 years, 5 years, you're going to be really having fun with it. You talk about coaches, and can you still need a couple, 2, 3? Would it be nice to get a couple?
Oh, definitely. Yep. So if anybody's interested, even and all they go is talk to Mike or myself. If they get a hold of us, we'll give them a rundown as far as what we want to do as far as with the program and how we run things. And it's there's always so much help, at practice and stuff like that. We'll all grab somebody. Hey, can you do this one? This drill? Do you know that one? Yep. And then we'll divide up, and the kids really get a lot of one-on-one with that. And the nice thing about practice too is, we're we're not split up with the gray team, white team, black team, whatever, red team, whatever it might be. We all work together when we're practicing. At the end of the practice, we'll get our teams together and we'll work on fine tuning. But other than that, it's thunder is thunder. It doesn't matter what jersey you got on. I mean, it's thunder football.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I think that we do better than a lot of other programs that they don't. I mean, the equipment we have up there, the sleds, the dummies. We have everything that the varsity does. We have the canopy. We have. I mean, and we use the stuff, and we it's repetition and repetition, and it's just. It's an exciting time for the kids, but it's like Paul said, it's just that whole and the reason we've always had so many coaches is because most of us have kids that go. So if I have to leave and go watch my daughter play volleyball or my son play, you know what, we're covered. You go ahead and do it. We still got 4 other coaches that can help run the program, and so that's always been a plus. So we've averaged, I suppose, 8 or 9 coaches for the last 10 years, and so. It works. It's we would certainly take more reach out to Paul or I we certainly take a look at you and see what you can offer and what we need.
I think you said you wanted to read something from BCM before we get to that. Do you feel, Mike? Are you just sitting there going, program's in great hands? With Paul Lear and the guys that are there now, they're going to take it. So I feel comfortable. I can say step aside.
Yes. Now, last year, at the end of the season, I sent an email to the parents and just said, I need to step away. It's multiple reasons, but it's time for a change, and no one really had stepped up. And I thought, okay, well. We'll go with it, and then Paul had reached out to me and said that he would love to take it over, and so I'm not just gonna throw the keys and walk away. I'll certainly help with them with the especially the financial part of it, and we are nonprofit, so there's a lot of that paperwork stuff I got to take care of and stuff like that. So, and I'm dragging my feet on doing the highlight video. I do one every year and put it on YouTube, and I started last night, so I got to get motivated. But I'm comfortable with it. On the other side, it's like I built this baby, but I'm giving it to Paul and the coaches to run. I'm very confident that this thing will just continue and get better, and that was one of the things that's so great about our coaches, that we all have the same idea, the thought, the same process of what we're doing, why we're out there, and that's it's for those kids and to make a difference, not just in a game, but making a difference in a kid's life, and that's all we can do. And not every kid that's on the field is going to be a football player, and that's what we tell them. But this is going to give you an opportunity to see if, hey, maybe I will. And I remember we had, what's been our second year, we had it had been our first year, so those kids would have been 5th graders, and we had a couple kids that played, and it's like, boy, I don't know where they're going to be, and they were the team that went to state, and the one kid ended up being the all conference or all state guard, and it's like, really? So I mean, it's so just because you don't have success at our level, it doesn't mean that it's not going to change. Because and you look at Zach Sikora, he was so big he had to be a lineman. Yeah. Well, now look at him, one of the best running backs in the state. And Gavin is kind of the same thing. He had to be a lineman at the time, and so it's just a great thing. Yeah.
For you, Paul, is it it's ain't broke, so don't fix it type thing?
Exactly. Those are the words I was going to say. I mean, we've got a good, solid foundation to work on, and we're not going to make major changes. We want to improve upon it. We want to make Thunder football, better, as best as it can be. And so I know the guys coming back, the guys that want to do that, they're excited about that, and they want to keep that going. And I'm excited too, because for 30-some years I've been around football, whether it's playing or coaching, and all different kinds of levels. And the most fun I've had in all of those times is with these young kids, because when you see that light come on, man, that's just you pick that out. And I talked to, I think it was the Jamestown game, one of the first ones we played over there. Something happened with. We just came together. We played against a good team, and we ended up beating them. And the kids figured it out. The only reason that we beat these guys is because we played as 11 guys as a team. Yeah. We didn't have the individual that could do this. They had a couple of really good athletes, but we had a better team.
Right.
And they saw that and they figured that out. And that's what caught me right here.
Final thoughts.
Yeah, like I said, I got this card in the mail from. It says, Thunder coaches, we want to thank you for everything you've done for the BCN students. You have taught them responsibility, teamwork, leadership, respect, and given each one of them a deep love for football. The sixth graders will miss Thunder, but you've given them courage to continue playing as Highlanders. Thank you for everything that you do. And this is why I coach. This is, that's the part that's. Well, yeah, I told Kathy I would still be done, but boy, it's pulling my chain to come back. But yeah, So it's, and that's one thing we want to talk about. The Thunder is going to be back. It's going to continue on, and who knows? I down the road, maybe I'd be back if there's comes to be a change. But you know what? For right now, it's in great hands, and really, it's to me, it's get some of these younger parents involved and be part of it. Get your kids involved so they're not doing this stuff all the time. And because that was one of the things we figured out a couple of years ago. Some of the kids that their football intelligence was they had no idea what what's a punt. Excuse me?
Right.
It's like, you don't watch football at home? No, we're playing PlayStation or whatever. I was like, well, okay, well that so but yeah, it's just been an awesome opportunity, and I can't thank the public enough for their support, because we do a fundraising, and the kids are just we still have fans. The stands are full of games, and in fact, my sister-in-law or my daughter-in-law was working in Jamestown last week, and the coach for the the Orioles worked with her and said something about, well, your last name is Lentz, and she says, is your dad? She said, no, it's my father-in-law. He said, well, that's the program that we want to be. Yep. That's our goal. That's our benchmark, is to try to get to that program. So when you hear stuff like that, it's, when we step on the field, and again, I'm bragging or patting ourselves on the back, but, I want us to look good. I want us to play good. And we have everything that we can to make our kids that way. And it starts with the coaches. And I said, I have a great group of guys that, for 22 years that have made my job pretty easy.
Maybe I'll have to have you in the press box now, and you can do a color with me on games.
There you go. Yeah. I'll have to bite my tongue. I still yell once in a while. So
turn down his mic. Turn down his mic. Again, gentlemen, it's always fun watching Thunder football, and it's only the couple years that I've been a chance to do it and be around it. It's a fun thing, because this is where you want to get the kids. This is the age where they're starting to get that interest in sports in general, whether it's football or hockey or soccer or whatever. And you get them out there, get them on the field, get them a nice uniform with a cute, cool logo, and that's where the love starts.
Yeah.
Yep.
And appreciate everything you guys have done. And Paul, I'm sure we'll be chatting again down the line.
Most definitely.
Because now you are the man, and not that you hadn't been before, but now you're really the man here doing this. But again, guys, appreciate everything you have done, and thanks again for joining us tonight. And
thanks, Paul.
When we get some fundraising, we'll have to have you on and talk fundraising.
Oh, definitely. Yep. Yeah, we'll keep the program going, keep it strong. I mean, with the equipment and stuff we got, it becomes a very safe environment for those kids, and tell them that. And like I said, those other teams look at us when we come on the field, and they're going, "Wow, how do you do that?" But we want to keep it going strong.
Amen. All right,
Amen.
Thanks, Paul. Paul Lear, Mike Lentz, gentlemen, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you.
And they, of course, they're with Thunder football. We're going to step aside. We'll be back. We've got more football talk coming up. Junior varsity and varsity right around the corner. This is Coach's Corner on the Highlander Activity Network. We were in the midst of talking football. We just got done with Thunder football. Now they go up to the junior varsity. Coach Aaron Heck joining us. How you doing?
Oh, Paul, it's been a long day, but it's been a good year so far.
Well, we're talking Thunder football. Do you remember your days?
That was that was a while ago. But Mike was one of my coaches, so
Taught you everything you know.
Yeah. I don't know if he wants me saying that, but no.
But
yeah.
a lot of your kids played Thunder football. These the guys that you have on your team now, your 9th and 10th graders, were Thunder football players back in the day. But let's get to the season. 7-1-1. I think it was a Kindred. Was a tie? Was that the loss?
That was the tie. The tie was we went out to Kindred, and we were starting to drive too. Used up all of my timeouts and just didn't have any left to use, and I think we ended the game on the 10-yard line too. So that was the tough one. Our kids finally got into the groove, and we were right there. But then we didn't even get to go into overtime because they don't do overtime for JV. So
okay.
So, and that's something I didn't even know at the time. I mean, I think, and so did the Kindred coach. They were assuming that, and so was I, that we were going to go into overtime.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't, and the kids still played hard, and they were pretty shot afterwards because that was one of the, I want to say 3 or 4 that we played that were actual JV teams.
Sure.
Because we're technically 9. I don't know if we're classified like 9A plus or something.
Mm-hmm.
So technically we're 9 freshmen JV. I've always called the kids JV. That's just the way I've been telling them. I never say freshman ball because we don't have all freshmen. We do have a few sophomores on there. But I mean, we went out there and they had some big guys. They had a couple juniors that were playing, some big guys. And you know what? It didn't stop our kids. Mm-hmm. And we did the same thing against Castleton too. They had, and I've played for Tommy Butler and played with some of their coaches, and I knew their coaching staff when they came in, and I knew we were going to get a tough team, and we were going to get a few juniors, just knowing Castleton and Tommy and those guys, and that didn't stop our guys. We ended up winning that one, and kids felt a little beat up after that. But you know what? I mean, especially as a freshman, nothing feels better than saying you can beat a JV team.
Right.
I mean, you played against juniors, and you didn't break. You didn't. I mean, you played hard-nosed football. So
you look at your team this year, and some of the kids you had last year moved up, and even the sophomores moved up and started playing on the varsity level. But just the overall, you have to be pleased with the way this group of guys meld and meshed as the season went on.
Oh, definitely. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I didn't know how it was going to go. We had to put Thornton under center, which is, I mean, no offense to him, but he's a smaller guy. He's not very big, but good news is I mean, the kid knows his stuff. So I mean, when he learns something, he knows. He's a good leader too for the guys. So, no, yeah, overall, I think everyone melded together. We had a few injuries when Powell was dealing with some knee issues, and Caleb McLaughlin stepped in, and, man, I tell you what, that kid runs the ball almost harder than some of the varsity guys run the ball, honestly. I mean, he when he hits a hole fast, and I love the way he runs the football. So I mean, all these freshmen they have a very bright future, especially in football. But I mean, some of those guys, it is next year. I mean, they'll probably be seeing more Friday nights than Mondays.
Yeah. And speaking of that, a lot of them saw it this year because we would have big leads late in the game, and a lot of the guys would get in and play those fourth quarters. And as a coach, so that's where you almost kind of become a head coach now because those are your guys out there. But do you take some pride when you see some of your junior varsity kids out there playing on a Friday night?
Yes. It's and know what's even better is you get some of those kids that get out there and you get a freshman. I remember the first game of the year against Turtle Mountain. You get Jackson Thornton out there, and he gets a touchdown on Friday nights. I mean, there's I couldn't even have imagined when I was a freshman that I'd of scoring on a Friday night. I mean, even no matter the score or whatever it is, I mean, to be a freshman and be out there on Friday nights is just, it's awesome to get the kids out there, get them the experience, and then they have fun doing it too. And I mean, it's a lot of fun. I think it's really cool seeing them out there.
And they get a chance to practice with some of these guys and then to see what the varsity does. You know, the old success breeds success type mantras. They're practicing against the number one team in the state for most of the season.
Yep. Oh, and look at record-wise, I still believe we are number one.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, we've always told our guys, you know, we feel we got the best offense and the best defense in our division in the state. And, I mean, I would still stand by it, whether I was a coach or wasn't. I mean, the way these kids play the football, and you know what, talking with Coach Rourke and Coach Ingen and Coach Smith, and those guys, they have buddies that are coaching elsewhere, and teams don't want to play us. And that's a good feeling. And you know what, I hope the kids take pride in that, because I tell you what, if no matter what you're ranking, if you hear that a team does not want to play you in the playoffs, that's just got to be a great feeling for them.
I know you're a busy man with stuff that you do, but when the junior high plays, the 7th and 8th graders, you kind of, you know, get a chance to watch guys that may be playing for you next year. And 7th, 8th graders, there's some talent there too. There
is. Yep. They got some size coming up too, and 7th graders I didn't get so much of because we had practice at that time. But some of the 8th graders, I did get to see some of those guys coming up. Terrible with names, so I'll forget all their names by next year. But you know what? That's I'm one of the worst ones at it. It's another reason I couldn't be a teacher. I could never remember. Names. Some of the guys, I mean, I end up calling them by either a nickname or their last name to just remember them.
Right.
But no, I look forward to it every year, and it's fun seeing the kids come up out of the 8th grade level and playing at freshman. And I like the freshman JV because I feel it gets the kids really ready for Friday nights. And I think that's why, like this year, you see there's so many more sophomores playing Friday nights because they got the taste of that JV right as a freshman.
Right.
And I mean, that kind of gets you the closest to a Friday night is playing that JV. So, I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome coaching. It's awesome seeing the kids do that.
And you run pretty much the same offense
for
the most
same.
part. So, you know, they're running this stuff now on a Monday that they're going to be running next year. And that's got to help the varsity, too, that these kids are getting the repetition in game situations as freshman and sophomore.
Yep. No, it definitely does. I mean, we run a basic of what the varsity does. We don't go as in-depth with the funky motions and all that stuff, but we definitely run kind of what we run during two-a-days.
Yep.
Like because we put in the basic stuff during two-a-days, so that's kind of what we stick to at that JV level. And then I like to throw in some funky plays every now and again. I call a highliner special, all that. The kids love that when all of a sudden they come in and I'm like, hey, let's try this. And you just almost draw something up and have some fun with it. And sometimes it ends up working. Sometimes it ends up being the ugliest play you'll ever see.
Right.
But, I mean, that's what I love is being able to do something like that. The kids go for it. I always take in the kids' ideas if they think something's going to work. And, you know, we'll give it a try. I mean, what's the harm in trying it? So
yeah, if you don't try it, you're not going to know if it's going to work or not.
Exactly. Yep.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
Well, again, another great season. 7-1-1 this year after an undefeated season last year. Just one loss this year. So you got a pretty good coaching thing going here.
I know, right? And we should
call you Saban.
Yeah, right. We should be 8-0-1. But if we wouldn't have played Devils Lake the first game of the year, I think we could have beat them. Just because that first game of the year, varsity JV. 7th, 8th grade, even Thunder football. I mean, that's the roughest game of the year. The first game of the year is always the roughest. It's the first time the kids really get to see heavy contact and full go and game speed. I mean, that's really the first time they get that look. So I mean, you get a tougher team like we had Devils Lake. I mean, you go up there and it was a tough first quarter, and they got a big play on us, and we pounded the ball a little bit, got it tied, and then they just kind of ran away with it after a big play, and then they scored. They literally scored on 3 big plays on us is all they did, and then we just couldn't get we couldn't start clicking. We weren't able to start clicking, and but after that game, I mean, our kids definitely figured it out, and I tell you what, they clicked the rest of the season, and I mean, they kind of got after each other that first game, but I mean, Coach Suffolk, Brad Suffolk, and I, we kind of discussed it with them, like, you guys are a team. We're not here. This is not pointing out someone else doing something wrong. You're not always right. It's just like talking to my kids, you know. They're not. You're not always going to be right. It's just that's just the way it's going to be, you know. And let me coach. So let the coaches coach. You guys just encourage, be a teammate, and things will be good. And they did. They followed up. We didn't really have any nitpicking after that, and had a heck of a season. So
one that I think Highlander football's in good hands over the next few years.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy for me to think this is my 11th season, and I was a Highliner before that. I graduated, played 1 year of college ball, and then Coach Rourke asked me to coach, and I didn't think 10 years later I'd still be coaching. I mean, it's crazy. It really is crazy how time flies, and it's been a lot of fun. I love football, and this is the best way for me to stick with it.
Year 11 done, year 12 not too far away.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Hopefully not for another couple weeks. Hopefully
Okay.
not to jinx anything, but you know. No, it'd be nice to go a couple more weeks. Some of the kids talk about it getting cold, and I'm like, no, it's not. I said I hope we're practicing when it's almost negative degrees, because you know what, it may stink when you're out there and you're kind of doing walkthrough stuff, but I tell you what, there's nothing better than getting to play in a dome. And been there. I played back in '08, and I tell the kids all the time, there's just, it's so much fun.
Yeah. A lot of teams want to play meaningful football in November.
Yep. Oh, exactly. Yep, exactly. And we got the talent to do it. We got the kids to do it, and I mean, and they're meshing together well. It's just as long as they're ready mentally, which I feel most of them are. Yeah. I think we can go out and do whatever we need to do to play a couple more weeks.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed with that. But,
right.
Aaron, appreciate you stopping by. Congratulations on another great junior varsity season, and we'll look forward to doing it again next year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. That is Aaron Heck from the Valley City Highlander Junior Varsity Football. We'll be back with more of Coach's Corner here from the HAC on the Highlander Activity Network. Back here on Coach's Corner, here on the Highlander Activity Network, and continuing our football theme. We've had Thunder, we've had the junior varsity. Now we're going to move up to the varsity football team. Coach Scott Rohrig joining us here tonight. Coach, how you doing?
Doing fine, thanks.
How's practice been going these first 3 days?
Been good. Weather's been helpful.
Yeah.
Because I remember last week I was here, I was trying to thaw out, so this was a welcome change. Yeah.
Friday night, 7-3 loss to the Fargo South Bruins. It was almost like a prize fight, just toe-to-toe, a couple of good football teams going at it.
Yeah, it was a very good defensive football game. You know, they kind of held us in check in some things, and you know, some people just starting to catch up with us, I think, a little bit, and that's kind of one of the things we talked about as coaches after, obviously, the last two games, and so there's some things that we probably should have got put in a little bit sooner than we did, and so hopefully we'll have some adjustments that can help us out, make things a little bit easier for our guys up front and open some things up, because you know, people are going to they can put a lot of guys in the box regardless of what we do, and we just got to figure out some ways, and we think we've got some ways that will help us out.
I know you'd mentioned that they had athletes that could stretch the field, but you really never gave them that opportunity, it seemed like.
No, we had a great scheme. Coach Engen had a great scheme for our kids. And, you know, we've got some athletes out on the field too, and so they executed very well, and defensively we played a very good football game, and well, of course they did too.
Yeah. 5 sacks, I think, but neither team really could get the running game really going. You know, I think Zach had 88 yards, but the ground game, neither team really could get that established.
Yeah, you know, we had the one drive that we got the ball down there. Some things opened up for us, and just couldn't either get back to it, or they changed a front that made us, you know, it's hard. You know, a lot of people think it's so easy to get out there, but it's a chess game, and you sometimes hope they're going to be in this. You expect them to be in this, and then, you know, they got a good defense called for that particular play. We're not much of an audible team, maybe as some people would be, but sometimes that's an experience thing, you know, knowing who you've got and some stuff. So, you know, maybe it's something we've got some of that in, but not a lot of it, that it gets too technical for our kids. So
you got to try to keep it simple.
Well, you try to.
You try to.
Yeah.
Not sometimes.
Well, you know, sometimes it's one of those things, we can block a play 8 different ways if we want, or is it just let's block it one way, and sometimes we're just going to have to gut it out and maybe play faster and more physical because I know my job, and that's not always easy, but you know, we've got a couple different ways to block a few of our plays, but you know, we just had a tough sledding last night, or the other night.
Seems like penalties were at minimum. Like it looked like you did a little bit better in that department.
Well, that certainly is a positive we can pull out of it. And, you know, I think the big thing, I'm trying to be positive with our kids. I mean, we could be 9-0 just as well as it could be 7-2 right now. And, you know, you lose a double overtime and you lose 2 games by a combined total of 7 points, you know. So we're not that far, you know, from where I think a lot of us think we could have been in the first place, but we've just got to get a little bit better.
Friday night now, it's Fargo North comes in. They're the next opponent, and I think Haugo is one of their. They like to run the footballs. This could be one of those games that you're never going to see the clock stop. You guys,
it could be one of the quickest football games in the history of high school football. You know, because we both like to run it. They're a very physical team, and we think we are too. And they've got a couple running backs.
Yeah.
You know, one of them gets maybe a little bit more of the press right now, but they got another kid that can come in, because I know their main back plays on defense too, so he gets a little breather here and there, and some of their kids probably get a little bit more of a breather than our kids do. So, you know, hopefully in some ways we can slow the game down so it's fewer plays, and hopefully we get more quality plays than they do, and you know, our special teams and our defense have kind of carried us pretty much the whole year, even though people look at some of the 40s and 50s and 30s we've scored. I mean, our defense has just been rock solid all the way through it. So.
Yeah, you look at the South game, it was played, really a lot of it was played in South's territory, especially in the second half, because, okay, if you had to punt it, and you got them deep in their zone. And
that's kind of what I was hoping for. You know, when we were struggling offensively, I was hoping our defense could make a play for us that would really flip the script on us, and they made plays. We just didn't get a turnover or one of those other things, but, you know, they kept them to 3 and out and gave us another chance, and So, that's kind of what we're going to hang our hat on the rest of the way.
And speaking of North, they got a quarterback, I think, Ethan Welk. He'll run the ball too.
Absolutely, he's very dangerous. They don't have a lot of passing schemes, but boy, they just seem very effective. And everybody knows what they are, but defending them is a completely different thing, especially when they can play action pass and run the ball as well as they do. But next thing you know, he takes off, and he's a very good runner, as you said. So we've got to make sure that we keep our lanes on our pass rushes and make sure we keep him under control too.
Staying, having your assignment, because I think Broden Muskie mentioned last week, we all have our assignment, just staying with that.
Yeah, and that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when the game gets going and the faster the game gets going, it's not practice anymore, and it's hard to simulate what they do, and it's hard to simulate what we do in practice. And it's an adjustment period, but once you kind of get in there, then you got your bearings as far as the speed of the game and the guy across from you, how physical he is, and that sort of stuff. So it is an assignment thing, and I think the discipline is going to be a big part of what makes a difference on Friday.
A home game. You got a playoff game here at home, and that is huge. We won't worry about next week. Friday night, home game. How big is that to have that first playoff game in your backyard?
Well, I think it's really neat. I think it's a nice reward for our seniors, and I think it's a nice reward for our community. It's been 3-4 years.
Yeah.
2019 was the last time we had a playoff game here, and in fact, my last playoff game as a high school player was against Fargo North back in 1985. So, it's kind of an interesting little tidbit there too. So hopefully we'll have a little better outcome this time than the last one that I played here.
I probably could tell you who the coach of North was too, but that's another story altogether. Again, same question as last week. Keys for a W here on Friday night.
Well, it is minimizing mistakes on our end, and we're going to have to be able to control the line of scrimmage. I think the team that does that is going to be the winner. I mean, we both want to do the same type of things, and I think the one that can impose their will on the other one is eventually going to be the one how it gets decided.
Playoff football, one and done.
It is, and I told the seniors actually today, I said, I can only promise you guys one more game. I'd love to give you two, but, we got to take care of business here first.
All right, Coach, thanks for stopping by. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome, Paul. Thanks.
You bet. Coach Scott Rourke joining us from the Highliners. Again, you'll be able to watch that game coming up here on Friday night. We'll talk more about that when we come back and wrap up Coach's Corner for this Wednesday night here on the Highliner Activity Network. Back here on Coach's Corner as we wrap things up, and we've talked football, volleyball, and tennis, but we do want to say congratulations to the Highlander cross country team. They competed last week at the state cross country meet in Jamestown, and a big congratulations to Coach Deb Bilke. Of course, she was named EDC Coach of the Year for girls cross country, state Coach of the Year too for Deb Bilke. So congratulations to Deb and the Highlander cross country team on a great season. And they wrapped things up last week at the state cross country meet. Well, coming up here on the Highlander Activity Network Thursday night, we've got volleyball, the last volleyball match of the season at home. Grand Forks Red River coming to town. The Highlanders fell last night in straight sets to Fargo South, and now they got Red River coming in here on Thursday night, then at Devils Lake next week, and then it's the postseason November 5th. Looks like probably West Fargo, Horace, or Red River will be the opponent for the Highlanders, but we'll know more when those games are played out next week. And Friday night, 7 o'clock at Hannah Field, the Highlanders will be taking on the Fargo North Spartans in the opening round of the state football playoffs. Highlanders got the number 4 seed, the Spartans the number 5 seed, a win, and they go on the road, maybe, unless Dickinson upsets Fargo South. Those are the matchups on Friday night. Fargo South hosts Dickinson, Grand Forks Red River will be hosting Wahpeton, and Jamestown will be hosting Grand Forks Central. And then next week, the semifinals with the higher seeds hosting, and then, of course, the Dakota Bowl on November 11th in Fargo at the Fargo Dome, where Class A will be the 3 o'clock game, so they'll be the third game of the day at 3 o'clock. But first things first, Friday night, 7 o'clock, the Highlanders and Fargo North from Hannah Field. And again, watching Highlander Activities is real simple now. You go to YouTube and can watch our Highlander Activities live on YouTube. You just go to YouTube and search Highlander Activities or the Highlander Activity Network and enjoy all of the Highlander Activities live. And there are some archived. You can watch things that and games and events that have happened already. Well, I want to thank Jaden Johnson and Derek Bear, our cameramen and technical directors here tonight. And, of course, our guests, great lineup tonight with Coach Rebecca Erickson. And, of course, from tennis, we had Matt Nielsen along with Kai Kringley and Trey Cope. Mike Lentz and Paul Lear from Thunder Football, Aaron Heck from the junior varsity for the Highlanders, of course, Scott Rourke from the Highlander varsity football team. Of course, as usual, thank you guys for joining us here every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock here from the HAC. It is Coach's Corner. We'll be back next week. Again, same time, same channel on YouTube. It is the Coach's Corner on the Highlander Activity Network.